Everyone hits a bump in the road. What do you do with it? Be inspired as we explore the ways people experience, navigate, and manage the ups and downs and twists and turns in this road trip called life. Welcome to part 2 of my podcast with David Maginley, where we continue our discussion about life, a near-death experience, and how it changed everything, even for a Lutheran minister. Once you have that knowing within you, it seems to me that as long as you can hang on to it, it permanently changes one's perspective on life.
Yes, but there's a subtle nuance in that. If I try to hang on to it, it tends to slip away. But if I realize that it has me, it's hanging on to me, and I've always been flowing and emanating from it, then I can relax into it. Then it lives naturally within me. It's important for me to remember that with all my reading and all my training, and even having written a book about this, I have a human brain, and I tend to get in my own way. And this is where I find the practice of mindfulness and presence are foundational to realigning myself with love, right? Attuning my consciousness back to the divine, because we're never really separated from it. How could we be? If we feel that, who moved? Did God move? No, I moved. At least I think I did. I just put up some barriers and noise, and I got caught up in that drama.
One of the things you ask in your book, it has to do with the whole experience of cancer, and you ask not why did it happen to me, but what can I do with it?
Yes. I like the quote from a doctor in there. It says, "Don't waste the crisis." So cancer is a massive bump in the road. The first step is accepting that it is the reality, the new reality. You can't do that right away. You negotiate with your mortality, even with a very treatable cancer. But accept that, okay, I've got this. What can I do? How can I not only go, but grow through cancer? Yes, you can ask, why me? But then move to, what am I going to do with this? Because why me can spiral into a sense of helplessness. What am I going to do with this is empowering, and is, again, using a crisis or suffering as the greatest opportunity for growth, to evolve into love. Tends to realign your priorities, reshape the whole texture of life.
No, I like that change in perspective. I think one of your phrases is, "It's a wild wake up to wonder."
Oh, that sounds good. Yes, I forgot about that.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I find so all of my patients have reminded me of that. To taste and feel that life is good, to be awake to the gift of ordinary, simple things. Yeah.
And I think something like cancer really focuses your awareness on the wonder of ordinary and simple things. That's something I find and I hear again and again in speaking to people. And that alone is a paradigm shift from this so-called reality that we live in, where we're bombarded by snippets of usually negative news and things, to stop and realize that it really is an amazing, wonderful world. And wow, what a road trip this is.
Yeah, what a wild ride. We would like it to be without the bumps, but if it weren't for the bumps in my life, I would not have grown into the man I am now. And I'm pretty happy with that.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. You have been through a lot. Would you rewrite any part of your story?
Oh, what a good question. There are days I think about that. Would I have made different choices? And to be honest, I say yes, as long as I end up in the same place I am now. Right? But those broken bits are aspects I have not forgotten, but I seek to learn and grow from them, and they help me make better choices here and now, today. I'm still learning so much about how to love and be real and authentic and compassionate. I'm still learning how not to be judgmental on myself. Having a near death experience doesn't make you enlightened. In fact, it can leave you kind of messed up and bumbling along even more than before because you're straining against a reality that is just not as real as what you touched on. And yet that one feels both as far away as the horizon and as near as the next movement of your heart. Right? So there's it's complicated and it's simple.
No, no, that makes it makes total sense. I was flying one day. I used to fly, high performance sailplanes, and I'm at 17,000 feet or so over Tahoe, and below is the beautiful aquamarine water. And at the end of my wings have a 50-foot wingspan, right? They're huge. At the end is a little winglet that's, oh, I don't know, maybe 10 inches or 12 inches tall. And I banked the plane and I balanced the entire plane on this little winglet. And this
Wow.
little winglet balanced on a bubble of air. And I rode that bubble of air up through the sky with the sun streaming through the cockpit and the blue waters below in this incredibly endless blue sky. And it was a moment of total, endless connection.
Pat, you are a really cool person.
Well, thank you. But it was one of those moments, it was transcendent, it was timeless, it was ephemeral. It is something that has always stuck with me in terms of a greater reality, and it was just a bare taste, just barely touched the surface of what that reality might be.
Oh, but look at the beautiful symbolism in that. You were sustained, lifted up, made buoyant by this invisible force. And what it required was for you not to use the strength of your huge wings, but to balance on the tip and become, find that point of vulnerability and connection. It was about letting go of the big control in order to tap into an intuitive control. And you soared.
And I soared. I think that's what the sport was about for me, was managing invisible updrafts of air to get from point A to point B, and of course, the adventure along the way. But it really was a metaphor for life. There are all these invisible sources of lift. Can you identify them? Can you connect with them? Can you work with them? Can you get to where you wanna go? And your destination may change.
Now, cancer tunes us into that. Cancer can become fuel to lift us higher. Suddenly, everything feels different. And where we want to place our energy, the priorities shift. And most of the time, they shift to relationships, the need to be honest about them and your own humanity, to repair what you can, to let go of what you can't, the wisdom to know the difference, as the prayer says, and to let yourself not need to be good or perfect, but to be real, authentic, and fully awake to the simple moment that you have.
Perfection is greatly overrated.
Yes, and we often let, what is it? Don't let great get in the way of good. Uh, Perfection can sabotage our ability to just relax into life, lean into it, and balance on the tip.
You also, you said something in your book, I don't have the quote in front of me right now, but about how, any creative effort really starts with destruction.
Yeah, every act of creation is first an act of destruction. I know that's not encouraging, but
Oh, but
what
I
it
think it is.
we fear things falling apart, and yet mindful presence wakes us up to the reality that every moment falls apart, every moment passes away, all things change and go with that flow. That enables you then to identify what you can do what you need to do. You're not clinging to illusions. You're not trying to control outcomes. You may have your goals, certainly very important, but you work wisely with what is and let things fall apart in order that new things may be created. How much better to be a participant in that instead of resisting it?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and I think learning to be in the flow opens you up to so many creative possibilities. I was watching, an episode of Chef's Table, one of my favorite documentaries, and it talked about the, Trois Gros restaurant, is that the name of it? A restaurant in France where actually I ate several times as a child, and it was a magical experience, and it is one of the longest standing, three-star Michelin restaurants in France. The father and his brother created it. In time, it was passed down to one of the sons, and the son worked with his father for years, and when his father finally retired, he realized that he had to let go of this classic dish that had made the name for this restaurant and recreate the restaurant in his time and his vision. And it was an incredibly difficult process, as you can imagine. But he did it. And when he made that jump, he found himself in this creative flow that was just amazing.
How can we use cancer as fuel for that type of vision, dreaming, intuitive, creative passion, right? How can we use it to be more real, more true to ourselves and others?
I think it's an opportunity to let go of what isn't working, to let go of your armor, your emotional armor, to forge a new path. But it is difficult and it takes courage. And there will be many, many bumps in the road if that is a path that you choose.
I know that path well, and one of the most important tools for me to continue walking in it is a really good sense of humor about myself. I I I find it hilarious how frequently I trip myself up, how I bumble along through life, and I find if I can't laugh at that, I become judgmental about it, and then I'm not very good company for anyone, and certainly not able to move forward with the goal. I With that judgmental self-perception, we end up recycling the critical messages about ourselves. No, though that's just an illusion. That's not who we are.
What advice would you give to somebody facing a significant bump in the road?
Yeah. It's it's a way for us to realize I don't need to believe everything I think. I don't need to be controlled by everything I feel. I'm having these thoughts and feelings. They may be difficult at the moment, but they're temporary. And simply my ability to step back and observe my thoughts and feelings helps me realize I do have agency here. I do have choice. As powerful as these thoughts and feelings are, I can just step back and observe them. And in that, I'm more than halfway home back to my heart. Um, Reach out for support. Don't think you need to be a hero. Um, I say that because most of the patients that I see, their number one concern on their heart is the well being and emotional uh, piece of their family and loved ones. So they protect their family from this inner new reality. But in doing so, and I did this, we put on a mask. We try to say, I'm
As you look
fine.
ahead
I'm okay.
with
And
COVID and
we're really
everything
taking
else
care of
going
our
on,
family's emotional
what do you hope
well-being.
for the world?
They don't need you to do that. They need to be on the same page as you and to walk the journey with you. So to be able to say it's difficult, I know, to your children, to your spouse, okay, I have cancer, or I'm in this crisis. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sure what to do. Now, the way you say that demonstrates you having the feeling or that the feeling has you. But to be real about it and to say, yeah, I'm scared, but let's look how we can move forward wisely with this. That gives them permission not to hide, but to connect and say, we're scared too, and we're here with you. That's one of the most important things.
One of the things that you mentioned in your book, that certainly resonated very deeply with me was how we really have to change our lives for health and well-being. Would you like to talk about that just a little bit?
Oh, yes, we have so much choice and ability to do that. Um, let's recognize that we live in a culture that is both blessed with such technology and comfort and abundance, and in the world that is spreading to the point that there is less poverty and less starvation now than ever before. It feels like there's crisis everywhere, but the world is actually in much better shape than it ever has been. Yet the rate of acceleration of technology and pollution and environmental damage, all of that is spreading too. So in this world, we have great choice to lead a healthy life, and it really starts with the basics: exercise, diet, and sleep. The tripod of health. Uh, Eating mostly plants, having a good night's sleep, 7-8 hours, and being regularly active. These three things are monumental in improving quality of life, and especially when you combine that with good, healthy relationships. We have great choice in changing those foundational aspects of life, and that's the best place to start. We are not powerless in the face of this, and as much as we're bombarded with bad news and crisis, let's focus upon what we do have control over. Over 50% of cancers are preventable. They're a result of lifestyle choices. So this is not saying, why did I get cancer? Is it because I did this or that? If you perseverate upon that, it's going to be very disempowering. Instead, you can say, well, I have cancer. What can I do about it? Well, how about let's focus on diet. What can I do there? Exercise. Even if I've never exercised, just walking, moving 20 minutes to the point that you sweat is a great thing. It's all about consistency. And how can I be more compassionate and wise with my thoughts and feelings? How can I be true to myself and follow my heart? Uh, these, this is where a real patient empowerment really starts and needs to focus. Um, you don't just be a pincushion. Don't be at the mercy of the very remarkable medical system and the technology, but work with that foundation of your body, your mind, and your soul. In regards to how do I love. Uh, this is so accessible, and it can happen right now with your next thought. Your next thought about yourself, the next thing you put in your mouth. Or sitting on the couch playing a video game or whatever, or getting up and going for that walk in the sunshine, get some vitamin D. It sounds simple. It even sounds naive. It's surprising how few people do it.
How does all this impact spirituality in a more global sense?
That's a powerful and important question. In the West, we too often think that spirituality is an individual uh, aspect of my autonomy and who I am as a person. That's always the emphasis in the West. But spirituality, by its definition, is a communal thing. It's all about relationship. It's all about connection because fundamentally we all arise from the one consciousness. You cannot practice your spirituality in private. It's impossible. It's an oxymoron. It is lived out in your relationship to others and to the environment. It must be manifest in the world. So globally, I'm excited because I think that we are on the edge of something transformative and monumental, perhaps even a new spiritual age in which people of all ethnicities and belief systems are focusing upon love and compassion married to justice and action. Uh, I know that may sound pie in the sky to some of our listeners. Um, and I agree, things are probably going to get worse or more crazy before they get better. But perhaps as part of a global quickening, something new is being born. Let's not waste the crisis. There is more awareness and knowledge of our place in the universe, more wonder and excitement about where we can go as a species. Uh, but we all need to participate in that. So I think of leaders like Karen Armstrong with the Charter of Compassion, in which cities are called to be centers of compassion. Right? I think of all of the social unrest and the incredible heartache and the tragedies that have happened recently in the political chaos. These are calls to action for us to participate in the transformation of the world and to bring
Well,
us.
it's create we're living through creative destruction, which has endless possibility. And I think part of the possibility at the end of this can be to recreate what I call our matrix. And the matrix is certainly the fundamentals you mentioned, the energy of the food we eat, getting rest, getting exercise, but it's the energy of who we hang out with, it's the energy of our thoughts. And I think that from that perspective, we have an opportunity to move to, I hope, a higher dimension, a kinder dimension, and we can make that happen.
Yes, we need to participate in this. I know that people of faith are praying around the world, but let's remember, prayer is not, in its best sense, asking for God to do something. It is not a petition to an external God. Prayer, in its best sense, is a participation in the consciousness of God. We are partners in the enterprise of awakening, of transformation. We don't do this as, and this may be controversial, we do not do this as warriors, except in that we become warriors of compassion, warriors of love, uh, empowered through vulnerability, authenticity, discernment, wise action. So that can be as simple as calling out an injustice, speaking up, getting out to vote, as well as practicing uplifting the dignity of another person at work or the stranger that you pass on the street. Nothing is lost. No small act is inconsequential because everything will be remembered. Back to those mystical near-death experiences, a significant number of them, people come back reporting that they had a life review. They were shown their entire life and they re-experienced every moment of it from the perspective of the people they touched. Yikes. I can think of no greater judgment, right, than that.
Going back to our discussion of judgment, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Is like, "Can I take that back, please?"
Yes, yes, that is, and all of this is presented to you with no judgment from the celestial entities and the angelic beings. They only give it to you with the desire that you learn and grow from it, that you be real. Nothing is held against you. And it is for us to forgive ourselves of all the broken bits and to release it and embrace the love that we truly are. Can we own that when the world may have been messaging to us all along for so many decades that we're not lovable or we're not worth it? You know, the message of the Christian faith is you are so worth it. God loves you unconditionally. So this is the heart of the homework globally and individually, and we participate in that enterprise with the next words we speak, the next thoughts we think, the next action we take.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found something in today's podcast that inspires you along your own life path, because sometimes a bump in the road is actually a portal into a more conscious and meaningful life. Bump in the Road is a production of Cancer Road Trip. Subscribe to the podcast, follow us on social media at Cancer Road Trip, and you can learn more at www.cancerroadtrip.com. Until next time, be safe and be well.